You a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are, as always, recapping the week's nerdy news from Viltrum to a bunch of comic industry people losing their jobs and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me, as always, Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, recently I've got nothing this week as far as witty responses and banter, but it seems like in general there wasn't a whole lot dropping this week.
Yeah, we're still in a slow January. I guess I don't remember if last year when we were doing this podcast in January, if it was as slow. I don't have a memory of that, but I feel like going forward, I'm going to remember that I feel like January is slow for almost every industry around.
Yeah, it seems to be at this point. That's the recurring theme.
Yeah. Luckily, we still have the looming James Gunn DCU announcements that still haven't happened, but I gotta think they're going to happen soon. He said January.
He did.
It's the 22nd. And he's been, we're going to talk about it a little bit in depth later, but like people on Twitter have been like, hey, James, weren't you supposed to announce stuff in January? And he'll be like, yeah, it's the 18th. Yeah, it's the 20th. Like, still January, which I think is funny. But until that, I think that's probably going to be the biggest news that we get this entire month. Clearly, it doesn't seem like anything else is happening. Which is kind of like, I guess I wonder if Marvel ever regrets getting themselves into this thing where they announce 80% of what they are going to do.
Yeah.
Like 2 years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get 2 years of almost nothing, of just knowing, yep, this thing that you told me that was going to happen happened.
It's getting closer.
Getting closer. Yeah, like I know that like there's a lot of Phase 6 stuff that they didn't announce, but they're going to announce all of Phase 6 probably at Comic-Con this summer or whatever, and that's still another 2 years.
And that's
Phase 6. And in between then we'll just get all the Phase 5 stuff.
Yeah, we just finished Phase 4 and they're already announcing stuff for Phase 6.
I know. It's crazy. It's like you'd think you'd want to like, you know how like we've talked about before how it seems like Netflix has regretted their drop the entire season of something model because the conversation is dead after like a week and no one's talking about whatever show anymore. I feel like Marvel is going to learn that lesson. It's like, well, maybe we should space these out and like, control our own news cycle, because there used to be, we've talked about this too. It used to feel like anytime DC announced something, Marvel just had something ready to go. Like, blap, well, we're doing a Doctor Strange movie.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And now it seems it's like they're like, we're doing all of this stuff so you can talk about it for this weekend, and then we'll see you in 2 years.
We're done. Sorry.
So
you would also think along those lines, you would think that someone would take advantage of the lull in January, maybe, and like actually put something good out.
Well, I think that's what DC is planning to do. It just has taken longer in January than we have expected, because we've been, I think, since November we knew it was going to be January, or at least December. He said we were going to announce some stuff in January.
Well, and I mean, put product out, because right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we currently have two very good things going on in Last of Us and Bad Batch. But in general, January is like the dearth of everything. Like the movies. Yeah. There's nothing in the theater.
January is traditionally a dumping ground for films when it comes to box office releases. So if you do put something out good, and like Megan, that horror movie about the doll, that like made tons of money because it was like the only interesting thing. Yeah. There's no competition. It was the only, semi-interesting thing that was being put out. And plus it was PG-13. So like, you got
that's why No Way Home did what it did last year, and why Way of Water is doing what it is now. Like, it's still in its run, and there's nothing else coming out to say, oh, let's go to that instead. It's like, well, if I'm going to the movies, I'll go to that.
It's weird new releases like Megan, or blockbusters held over from the holiday that were released in late December that do anything in January. And, I think like strategically, like they probably thought Megan was good enough to like disrupt whatever crowds, and we'll put that out in January and
disrupt the hierarchy of the movie universe.
Yeah, exactly. But like no one's putting out blockbusters in January. No one's putting out. I think Morbius was supposed to come out in January originally, or did it come out in January? I don't remember.
It might have. But like, why not? Why not move Quantumania up to late January and say, go, and you have no competition. Yeah, like, you already know you're making bank. You might as well make more bank.
I mean, until recently, February was kind of like that too. Until recently, it was really all of Q1 was a desert for blockbusters, and it wasn't until like the spring where you started getting like really like good movies. But February, when they did Black Panther came out in February, Deadpool I think came out in February. It was like, oh, February's, and I think like Batman vs Superman came out in March, so like years ago. So that was like, oh, okay, people do want to go see movies, but January is still known as kind of a wasteland when it comes to movies, at least.
Now, was Deadpool part of that infamous, or no? That was Was that Deadpool 2? That was part of the infamous year of everything finding a way to screw Solo.
I think it was Deadpool 2.
Yeah, because it was like that Infinity War right before Solo dropped, and it's like, all right, everybody's movied out. Good luck. Yep.
So. Thanks, Bob Iger. For not moving Solo to December.
So we've gone completely off the rails of what our rundown says for the first 6 minutes of this. So,
yeah, that's fine, because we're just talking about how there's not a ton of news.
Yeah, it's true.
And there isn't.
And even our first bit of news isn't news. It's announcing that there's no news.
We're opening this just so, again, we did this last week too, because we felt like we've been opening every show with DC for like the last like few weeks.
It's the alphabet.
Yeah.
You do the rundown, it's like D. Okay, good.
Right. I try to switch it up, but when the only thing we're talking about is DC.
Yeah.
It's going to be the lead story, but we switched it up last week because there actually was some Marvel news. This week, we're opening with two stories that really, in a normal week, would be one-shots, and we're just so we can, kind of like disrupt the flow of the show a little bit. We are going to talk about some DC stuff later on. Guess what? Some more James Gunn stuff. He has not announced any of his slate yet, but still promising that he will. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But we're starting off this week with something, a teaser, kind of like a teaser for a teaser, more of just like a release date-ish announcement. Like it's really just kind of nothing when you really think about it.
Oh, it's nothing, but it's a hilarious nothing.
It's a hilarious nothing for Steve's most anticipated show of 2023. And apparently, Steve, you're going to have to wait most of 2023 to see season 2 of Invincible on Amazon Prime. Released a season 2 teaser this week, which included Mark, the titular Invincible, and the alien character whose name I do not remember.
Alan.
Alan. An alien who Mark's dad always tried to fight, and then Mark decided to talk to him, and they like kind of forged a relationship a little bit. Voiced by Seth Rogen. Mark voiced by Stephen Ewan. Anyway, this teaser is the two of them sitting in a diner, kind of having a conversation, and Alan asks Mark, "So like, when you?" Oh, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze.
Well, so yeah. That was your random audio pause for...
Woo! That was a big one.
If you were watching the video, you saw
if you're watching this video, you saw, yeah. Almost took me out. Anyway, it's Mark and Alan's asking Mark, like, hey, where you been? What's going on? Everyone wants to see you again. And then at this point, you start realizing this is a meta conversation about where is season 2 of Invincible. And Mark saying, I've been busy. I've been doing a lot of stuff. And Alan says, what have you been doing? He's like, well, I've been writing, recording voiceovers, editing, drawing, animating, and just,
going on the whole nine production stuff.
Yeah, mentioning everything that goes into making an animated series, which is very funny. And basically, the only bit of information that we get out of this teaser, other than, fun, is that season 2 of Invincible is coming out late 2023. That's the best we get. So probably Whoa, almost knocked over my whole setup here. So I'm saying probably, Q4, October, November,
that
December.
sounds right.
Yeah.
And again, that's a spot where, they can slot in, and there's not, that's kind of post, like if last year's any indication, that's post what we saw of the dump in the end of the summer. And kind of that September, October timeframe might be a good spot for them to drop, like late September, early October. But yeah, I don't know. It's something I'm definitely looking forward to. The original was outstanding. Not anything I expected going into it, and because I had never read the book, and I came out of it a very huge fan of what I saw.
I read like volume 1 of it a long time ago, and I don't even think I got as far as the twist with the dad. Or if I did, I did not remember it when I watched the show. It's like a friend of mine let me borrow volume 1, and I thought it was really good, but I didn't keep up with it. So going into the trailer, going into the series, it was barely anything that I remembered.
Yep.
Because I get to that twist with the dad pretty quick. But the other part of this is not in the trailer, but Robert Kirkman, creator of Invincible, gave an interview with CBR.com, comicbookresources.com. And he said that future seasons of the animated show may include unused comic book ideas, like ideas that he had for the initial run of Invincible that they ended up not using for one reason or another. And he said he's very excited to be able to finally adapt these ideas, which I think is super cool. So it gives them a way to not have to be beholden to the source material, but also have these ideas that were created for the source material. So it's still going to be a good fit for the character because it came from the mind of the original writer and creator. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, and that's probably a good way as good a way as any to hit it, because, if that's what Kirkman was planning for arcs or had ideas about and just couldn't quite get it to fruition, then it'll work if you redevelop it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's a cool way to keep it fresh.
Yeah,
I feel like for people that have read the comic but maybe want something else. And he did not say this season 2 will be that. He said future seasons.
Right. There's still enough published. How many volumes were there? Like 4 or 5, something like that.
I think so. But do you remember they're also? We haven't heard anything about this in a long time, but I remember that they were in development on a live action Invincible. I don't remember if it was a movie or a series, but there was a live action Invincible adaptation in development somehow.
Huh.
And if that's still going on, using unused comic ideas for the animated series would certainly be a way to differentiate the stories being told in the live action version at the same time, which is also smart.
Yeah, that seems. It seems like the latest I can find on the live action is that it will be taking a very different turn from, if it even goes, that
the dad thing.
Well, it'll take just a different tone and everything from the show. So it's going to be kind of independent and not just a rehash if they do end up making it. So
I feel like it's already. It just seems like the story that they told in the first season of the animated show, which, from what I remember from the comics, seems like the first arc of the book as well. It just seems like that's such a character-defining arc that.
Yeah.
How could you not use that same arc in some way in any adaptation? Like that's like
right.
Especially with a character that not as many people know. Like we're all sick of seeing Batman's origin. We're all sick of seeing Spider-Man's origin, but that's because we've known those characters for a million years.
Yeah. Almost 100 years now.
yeah. For Batman, we're getting up closing on 90 years.
Yeah.
For Superman and Batman. So, but for a character that not as many people are familiar with, I feel like you have to kind of do that character defining story for every adaptation or many adaptations, at least. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be. I just think that story is so strong and was told so well in the animated series. I can't imagine not telling it if they're doing a live action adaptation as well.
Yeah.
Or I guess they may be saving it for later, and then it's even a bigger twist. I don't know. But then anyone that has seen it or read the book just knows that it's going to happen. I don't know. It's feel like it's walking a thin line.
Yeah, and it gets into overload territory too. Of like,
yeah,
why?
Right.
Like, why would you do that?
Right, like why? Like how Disney remakes live action versions of all their animated movies, but doesn't change anything. Like, why are you doing this?
Well, but even with that, you've at least got a 20 to 30 year gap.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. This would be like a couple years.
3 years.
Yeah. Good point. Good point, Steve. Well, that's everything that I can say about the Invincible franchise. So let's move on to something that I can say way less about. But as a nerdy focal point, I guess I don't know what to call it. It's a nerd thing. People love TRON, right?
I think
Raise your hand if you've seen TRON.
Anyone who's listening in audio, neither of our hands went up.
My hand did not go up, nor did Steve's. I have not seen TRON. I have neither seen TRON Legacy. But they are genre nerdy films just the same. They have their fans. I know the first one has a big cult following. The second one, I think, was mixed because it was like a Disney thing. And, you know, some people loved it. Some people was like, Disney ruins everything, whatever.
Right. Which they're going to say no matter what. Exactly.
I actually heard that the second one was pretty good. From most sources I feel like that I trust, I heard that the second one was good. And there's been rumors of a third one for a long time. Apparently, that rumor was confirmed this week that a movie called TRON Ares is moving forward at Disney, starring Jared Leto. I guess Jared Leto has been attached to star in the third TRON movie for a long time. And he's even posted things about it, but then had to delete it because whatever wasn't finalized, things like that. So apparently Ares is the name of the character that Jared Leto will be playing. And director named, I don't know, Steve, can you take a swing at this name? You're better at foreign pronunciations than me.
Joachin Rønning?
Joachin Rønning? Okay. Who directed... what's that?
Rønning, maybe?
Yeah, because it's the O with the slash through it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure. Joachin Rønning?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Director of Malecifent, Mistress of Evil, sequel to Maleficent. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
Malecifent? I think I spelled it wrong.
Maleficent.
It's Maleficent. The F comes before the Z.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he's in talks to direct. So everybody loves Jared Leto, right?
He also directed Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Is that the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean?
I don't know. Another franchise that I've seen one of.
I've seen two of. So
I know the music's great. Beyond that, I got nothing.
Yeah. I've seen two Pirates movies, and I'm kind of personally kind of off Johnny Depp. So I don't think I'll ever see another one, especially if he's in them. But Steve, do you care about this movie?
Did you know Nightwing was in those?
Nightwing was in what? TRONs?
Brenton Thwaites.
The TRONs?
No, in
or the Pirates.
Pirates movies.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I only know Brendan Thwaites as being the Nightwing character on Titans.
He apparently was only in this one, Dead Men Tell No Tales. From 2017. Okay. So.
Well, great job, Nightwing.
I saw the name. I was like, I know that name from somewhere. Where do I know that name from? Now we know.
Does anyone care about TRON? Does anyone care about Jared Leto? Steve, what do you think?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no and no.
Yeah. It's really strange what Jared Leto has done to his own career.
Yeah, how he's managed to somehow shatter his own brand that was riding very high for a while.
He won an Oscar, right? Didn't he win an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club?
I think
he won, right? He was at least nominated. I think he won an Oscar.
And Yeah, that sounds right. I would assume between that and prior, he won an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't blame him for his Joker. I think that movie was bad, and that interpretation of that character was bad. Suicide Squad. I think Jared Leto would be a good Joker in the hands of different filmmakers, be it David Ayer, be it Zack Snyder. I think they were not the best to handle that character. I'm not saying that I would like him to stay on as the Joker. I'm saying that I think he would be a good Joker, just in a different movie.
He could be a good Joker if the plot and the movie itself fit
exactly
what he was going for.
Exactly. So I don't blame him for that, but I know that soured a lot of people on Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And then Morbius, that whole thing, which maybe you consider a cult classic because some people love it because it's so bad, but
right. He did not go into that expecting it to be. We're not talking Bruce Campbell in Army of Darkness where he was leaning into the camp. That movie just sucked.
Yeah.
I did finally end up watching, getting through as much as I could of it.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think Jared Leto. I guess we'll see when this movie comes out. I don't know that he's as big of a draw as he used to be, or they think that he is. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how TRON. I also like TRON. I feel like. I guess I don't know what the second one did, but if the second one was huge and super crazy popular, I feel like they would have made a third one already because that movie came out 10 years ago, I feel like. TRON Legacy? Wasn't that called TRON Legacy?
Yep.
Yeah, over 10 years ago. So, I don't know if people care about TRON. I don't know if people care about Jared Leto. This may or may not be a wise pairing of the franchise and the actor.
So the film TRON Legacy only grossed $400 million against a $170 production budget, so that was pretty well a flop.
Yeah,
so by what they were shooting for, at least.
Yeah,
and I feel like the whole, I guess the whole series, or not the genre. Well, I guess the genre leans way too heavily into the '80s tropes, and not quite like Ready Player One levels, but very much into the nostalgia. And if you don't have that that demographic that's jumping for another TRON movie, then why are you making one?
Yeah, well, maybe this is a new direction. Maybe this is a chance to. Maybe this is what they see as a way to reinvigorate the franchise. And maybe it's a new story. It's not connected to the first two. Because I know the first two, the Legacy was a sequel to the original. Maybe this is just a new story.
Right, just something in the universe.
Yeah, that looks cool and gets people excited again. Who knows?
Yeah, could be.
Who knows, but we'll know someday when it comes out, if it comes out. Moving into very familiar territory. You're talking about some DC stuff. And again, Steve, I know I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when I was making this rundown. I thought, am I just talking about this because it's DC and I'm excited, or is this genuine stuff? And then I thought, you know what? If Kevin Feige or Kathleen Kennedy came out and said, we're retooling our entire universe and we're rebooting a bunch of stuff and we'll have an announcement for you.
Right.
We would be talking about that
constantly.
Every week.
Yeah.
We would be talking about rumors. We'd be talking about what we think. We'd be talking about what they're saying in interviews and things. And that's exactly what we're doing with DC. So, again, assuring myself that no, it's not just the DC fanboy in me that is adding this all the time. This is what is happening right now. And as we said, maybe if it was a bigger news week, maybe we wouldn't cover all of this stuff every week. But you know what? Like we said, January, nothing else is happening. I feel like I should almost refresh my Twitter feed while we're talking to make sure that no announcements have been made by James Gunn. But I feel like he wouldn't do it on a Sunday night.
Well, he's done Stranger Things.
That's true. But you feel like, again, I'm really hoping that they're tune in to whatever on this day. I hope there's hype around it. I hope it's not just here's a tweet with the things we're doing. Give us some hype, give us an announcement, give us a date, and then we can tune in and get our minds blown. I don't know. Do something. Anyway, James Gunn gave an interview with Empire Magazine. And Steve, this is something that you and I talked about. Like I say, you and I called this. We talked about the possibility of the actors from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies coming over to DC with James Gunn. Because as James Gunn has said, he's done making Marvel movies, especially now that he's working for DC, and he's done making Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So you and I talked when we were like theorizing about what was going to happen and what would we want to see. Are any of these actors going to move over to the DCU to follow James Gunn? And in an interview with Empire Magazine, James Gunn said the following. First, he referred to his finishing and promoting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as his quote-unquote day job, while mentioning his new position at DC as, quote, a very healthy part-time job that's at least another 40 to 60 hours a week. He's got to be pretty busy right now.
He's burning the candle at both ends, undoubtedly.
Yeah. He's like shepherding an entire universe of all these big characters, but also like finishing and promoting his like final whatever, like big punctuation on his Guardians trilogy for these characters that belong in this other gigantic universe.
Yep.
So he's, burning the candle at both ends, I think is a good way to describe it. He then went on to say, somebody asked him about if he ever working with the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy again. And he said, this cast are like my family. I cannot tell you how close I am to Chris Pratt, Pom Klementieff, and Dave Bautista, and Zoe Saldana, and Karen Gillan. But I also know I will work with all of those people individually again. Then he laughed and said, probably at my other job. Which sent people fan casting and going crazy about who would Chris Pratt be, who would Dave Bautista be, who would Zoe Saldana be. And you and I kind of talked about some of those things. Mm-hmm. Could we see those characters moving over to the DCU? I can. It will be interesting to see what and when and who, I guess.
I would assume whoever it is, Saldana and Bautista would play people that are not green because they are not going to want to get into makeup again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, I want to say, Pom Klementieff, who plays Mantis in the Guardians franchise, she was actually in the Suicide Squad.
Really?
She is a dancer at the bar that they go to get the Thinker when they have to trap him and get him out of there. She is the lead dancer on stage at that bar. It's a very small thing. But in like the commentary for it, he says he's been friends with her for a long time. He's like, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to come? And she's like, yeah, sure. I'll do a thing for you. And
there you go.
And did like a dance and that's it. Yeah. Cool. Also that reminds me, when you and I were saying like who else should be, who works with James Gunn that should be in DC. Remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking about like actors he works with all the time. We were talking about Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion is also in the Suicide Squad. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah.
He's the detachable kid in the Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
And he's the only one of that first team that is shown to still be alive at the end.
Yes.
Or at the end of that sequence when the cameras go around, he's like coughing up blood. He's still alive. So who knows?
That's great.
Oh, I did hear someone else fan cast Nathan Fillion as I listened to another podcast where someone said Nathan Fillion should play Hal Jordan, but in a way that he is training, John Stewart or Kyle Rayner or something like he's the older Green Lantern. I think that would be cool too. I would take him as Green Lantern.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So anyway, regarding just the Guardians characters, I mean, Dave Bautista's great. Zoe Saldana is an incredible actress. She could do anything. She'd be a pretty good Catwoman. I'm just thinking that right now off the top of my head. She'd be a pretty good Catwoman. I have soured on Chris Pratt a little bit in the last couple of years, just based on things that I've heard about him in his personal life and things. But I would say if Chris Pratt is someone that comes over to DC movies, I feel like I would like him to play a villain. And kind of like what I was saying the other day about how I would love Tom Hanks to play Lex Luthor because it's against type.
Yeah, same
Chris
kind of
Pratt
concept.
Always plays these like goofy or like trying to do good or do gooder kind of characters. Like, I think he would be really good as like a manipulative asshole bad guy. I think he'd be good.
Yeah, I could see that. At least like, trying it.
Yeah, give it a shot. I think he'd be a good. I don't know if you remember this character. I think he'd be a good Maxwell Lord. He was the character that Pedro Pascal played in Wonder Woman 1984.
Okay.
Like the businessman guy who's like making all these promises but like can't keep it. Like that's not quite who he is in the comic books all the time, but like I think he would be good as comic book Maxwell Lord.
All right.
Because he still has to be like trustworthy but also shady, similar to Lex Luthor.
Funnily enough,
but in a different way.
Karen Gillan would also fall in the don't want to get in makeup situation, I'd assume. Since for the longest time, I knew Karen Gillan from other stuff and did not realize that was Karen Gillan when Guardians first came out. Also, I have trouble every time I read her name, of thinking it's Kieran Gillen, the comic book writer.
The comic book
and
artist,
I'm like, oh no, okay, which nerd road am I going down?
Me too. Yeah.
Yep.
Which KG are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Karen Gillan is an incredible actress, and I can see her just probably doing anything that James Gunn wanted her to do. So I am down with any of this. He doesn't mention Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper because they're just voice actors, really. But you got to imagine that you mentioned when we were talking about this the first time, you mentioned that Sean Gunn, his brother, I feel like is likely to pop up, even if it's him doing like motion capture. Like he does the motion capture for Rocket, and Bradley Cooper just does the voice. So I can see him like, I think in Peacemaker, they mentioned the character of Bat-Mite in one episode, who's like this otherworldly imp that like is obsessed with Batman that just pops up every once in a while and annoys the shit out of Batman. It's like, it's certainly not the grounded, gritty Matt Reeves version of Batman that this character exists in, but something like that. If like they needed motion capture for a weird character like that, I feel like Sean Gunn would be there, ready to go. Or there's like a Green Lantern that's like a squirrel, like sure, give me that,
right?
If you're doing that kind of thing.
Oh, also, for completionist's sake, since we are talking all things nerd, with Karen Gillan, what I had recognized her or what I knew her from and didn't realize was she was Matt Smith's companion in Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yep.
So we're coming full circle.
Yep, that is when I first met and fell in love with Karen Gillan as Amy Pond in Doctor Who. Yeah, so good in that show. And then also this week, responding to a negative fan on Twitter, or was it Twitter? Or was actually this might have been Instagram? No, this was Twitter. Somebody was saying somebody was reacting negatively to his interview about bringing over the Guardians cast, maybe joining him in the DC universe someday. He said, please, like the person was saying, please don't do this. Like, it's a different thing. Like, just start fresh and blah, blah, blah. And James Gunn says, in response, we have hundreds of roles to cast. As I've always done, some will be brand new faces. Some will be actors I've worked with before, and some will be actors you don't know who I've never worked with. What matters most is that the actor fits the role and they are easy to work with. So, I mean, that's a smart move. Like, you want an actor that fits the role. Bottom line.
Right.
Bottom line.
And I feel like Gunn's always been good with that.
I agree. I very much agree. So I think he's a smart guy that's not going to go for like, oh, people love Chris Pratt, we're going to make him, Hal Jordan, or he's going to be Superman or whatever. Like, he's not going to do that. He'd be like, well, Chris, especially because he's worked with these people.
Right.
So he'd be like, Chris, I know that Chris Pratt is good at this, and I can see this in him, so I'm going to put him in this role. Or Karen Gillan is really good at this, so I'm going to put her in this role.
Well, and it could even be something like with Palm, like you were talking about, where it's like, he says he's going to work with them. He doesn't specify how. Like, it could just be a cameo, could be something random, could be whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chris Pratt could play somebody that gets killed by the end of the movie. That doesn't mean that just because they're coming over doesn't mean they're going to survive the film that they're in, or that it's even going to be a role that goes on for multiple sequels or whatever. It doesn't even mean that they're going to be an A-list DC hero.
Right. I mean, this week in The Bad Batch, I listened to the voice of Ben Schwartz be a droid that got annihilated. So,
love that.
You big name actors can do whatever. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes that works to the film's benefit. Like if you cast an A-lister like Chris Pratt, you're going to assume he's going to stick around. But then if he dies, it's a huge shock. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So he could also play into that and be like, well, if I cast this guy, people are going to think that he's going to go on for a million movies in this franchise. But nope, I'm going to shock the audience by killing him off in Act 1 or whatever, you know?
Come on, James Gunn never subverts expectations. He hasn't made an entire career off of it or anything.
Right. He didn't make an entire movie called The Suicide Squad, in which he cast a bunch of people that didn't make it.
Yeah, we just talked about how Nathan Fillion was dead, like, in the first scene.
The only one still alive. Yeah. He also mentioned in a comment, responding to somebody on Instagram, I feel like I follow James Gunn on Instagram, but I never check the comments, and I feel like this is the second time I've mentioned a comment on Instagram, so I feel like I'm going to have to start doing that. Somebody said... someone was criticizing DC about like, yo, you don't have, your bench isn't deep enough. Well, clearly the person does not understand DC Comics, that they've been around since 1939 or whatever, or 1938 when Superman debuted, and like they have a very deep bench. Like just because you don't know these characters, like there's thousands of characters in the just like there are in the Marvel universe. Like there are thousands of characters. Anyway, this guy was saying, you gotta bring in something else. You gotta figure something else out because you don't have a deep enough bench to make a whole universe. Which again, insane comment to make about the DC universe. But also, he responded in saying that between DC, Wildstorm, and Milestone, we have plenty of characters to choose from. So, Wildstorm and Milestone are two imprints of DC, similar to Vertigo, which doesn't exist anymore. But and they like just had other characters, kind of like their own universes. Milestone specifically had a lot of like black and people of color characters, including like Icon and Rocket and Static Shock. So the fact that he mentioned Milestone makes me think that there's a real possibility that Static Shock could show up in his DCU, which would be very smart because there's a lot of kids that grew up watching that Static Shock TV show. And I mean, we heard that there Michael B. Jordan was developing a Static Shock series or movie for HBO Max. Who knows if that's still happening? But anyway, I think James Gunn has said before that he is basing some of his decisions and taking inspiration from the Justice League animated television show. So if he's taken inspiration from animation, then it's likely that he's watched not only that, but also Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Static Shock. All these were in the same DC animated universe. So if he knows about one, it's likely he knows about the other. So that's great. I just thought of something else while I was saying that sentence, Steve, and it just left my brain before I was done with the sentence. What was it?
Been there before.
Static Shock, Justice League, Superman the Animated Series.
These things I don't know, man. I do not live in your brain.
I know. So we'll see. I would just love, I don't know. I'm just really excited to see what these announcements are. I feel like he's going to be bringing in a lot of characters we haven't seen before. And I don't know. It seems like to me, there are some obvious things that we could have already had from DC that we haven't had yet because either people don't believe in the characters or don't see them in the right way, or, you know, Zack Snyder wasn't interested in whatever, the Teen Titans or something. But I feel like James Gunn is somebody that understands the characters. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Oh, he also posted a picture of something like the best way to wake up is coffee and comics. He posted a picture on Twitter, and it was him. It was a table, cup of coffee, and a graphic novel open to a random page. I immediately identified that he was reading All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, which I personally don't love, but so many other people think it's their favorite Superman story. I do agree that it treats Superman correctly, the way that Superman is supposed to be written, supposed to be created. So that got a lot of people hyped that he was reading All-Star Superman. And he claims to have read it many, many times in a response to that tweet. So anyway, Oh, so I just mentioned Teen Titans a second ago. I was talking to my wife earlier. Like, my son is 6 and loves Teen Titans Go. He watches it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's seen episodes a million times, and he still watches it. He thinks they're hilarious. He loves those characters. Similar to me not understanding why Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers didn't choose a Justice League roster that mirrored the Justice League cartoon roster. You know, you have a built-in audience with those characters. Why aren't you using those characters? It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like if James Gunn comes out next week and is like, yeah, we're making a Teen Titans movie, and it's these 5 characters that have been on this show for 7 seasons that you all love, like, that's instantaneous butts and seats right there. That's a built-in audience for people that have been watching Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go with Robin, Raven, Beast Boy, Cyborg, and Starfire for over 10 years. Now that cartoon's been on in various forms. That team has been in animation in different forms, and it's crazy that they're not doing that. And they go, if 2 years from now I get to take my son to a Teen Titans movie, he's going to be losing his mind. It's like it's such a smart idea to do something like that.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, I got a hunch that's why Titans, like, why that was a thing, was bringing kids that had grown up on that. A live action show of them when they were aged up to the age they would be.
Right. But also I feel like they pushed that to make it an R-rated show. And it is an R-rated show. Yeah. It's not a great show, I don't think, but it is an R-rated show. So like
it's not a great show. It can be a fun show when it's at its best.
It is, yeah, I agree. It is fun to see live action versions of Nightwing and Red Hood fighting. And like that's cool. Yeah. But
if you want it's R-rated, if you want a deep watch, not really there.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically a CW show where they say the F word.
Right. It's CW plus.
Exactly. Yeah. CW After Dark.
Yeah. One thing I know we've talked for a long time on how people need to be pushing more things towards kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on your radar, but Young Jedi Adventures is coming out in spring.
Wait, is that a show?
That is the High Republic animated Star Wars focused for preschoolers, grade schoolers, and their families.
Dope.
So, and I read that from the copy because I didn't have that in my brain. But set during the High Republic.
Very corporate.
Yeah. Oh, it's My brain often works in corporate speak. But yeah, I guess it's like them, a bunch of Jedi as Padawans in the High Republic.
Awesome.
So
I am I'm close to getting my son to start Clone Wars. I think pretty soon. I think nice. I'm gonna try to implement like a certain night of the week is the night we watch Clone Wars. You know, so we like can start it and stick to it and not fall off. Like, no, Wednesday night it's Clone Wars night. We're doing it.
Nice. And unfortunately for you, you're gonna have to sit through the fluff too. But
yep, I sure am, Steve. But you know what? I'm going to be doing it with my son, so it's going to be worth it.
You're going to have, Meeber Gascon and all those, him and all the droids and all that.
The droid episodes, the Jar Jar episodes. I'm there for it. It's going to happen.
All right, man.
Happen, and I'm going to see it through the eyes of a child, and hopefully that'll make a difference. I don't know.
We'll see. I doubt it, but there's always hope.
I doubt it too.
One thing there may also be hope for is the continuation of some prior cast members in the DCEU.
Yeah. Who knows? That was a fun little Star Wars tangent, but thank you for segueing it back to the DC stuff. We're talking about
the roundup.
A few more DC stories for you. And this ties into the James Gunn stuff we talked about a while ago. Jason Momoa posting a video of him getting off the phone with James Gunn and feeling real good and pairing that with the rumors that he's going to transfer from Aquaman to playing the character of Lobo. That's still up in the air. That has not been confirmed yet. We still don't know if he's sticking around as Aquaman, but we do know that he looks and acts exactly like the character of Lobo from DC Comics. Lobo, I guess, have we said this? Lobo is like a alien. I can't remember the alien race that he is, but he is an alien species. He's like a bounty hunter.
Yep.
He's kind of like if you cross the Mandalorian with Deadpool, but also make him like a 90s biker guy.
I was going to say, throw a little Wolverine in there.
Picture Rob Zombie. There it is. Picture Rob Zombie as a bounty hunter in space.
Yep. There you go.
But he acts and talks like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Which is basically Jason Momoa.
Which is Jason Momoa. Exactly. I should have said picture Jason Momoa on a motorcycle in space.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what this character looks like. He looks exactly like Jason Momoa. So that's why all this rumors of him being Lobo seem credible, because if he was not Aquaman, he would be the perfect casting for Lobo. And this, this last couple of months is not the first time that anyone has mentioned that. So that's why there's credibility, we think, to those rumors. However, we don't know for sure. But he did post another video on his social media. It's just like with him and a couple of buddies in some giant mansion somewhere. God, what a life. And he's just saying like, yes, I'm screaming. He said, good news, great news with Warner Brothers. Amazing. I wish I could tell you. Peter, I love you. James, I love you. Mwah. To the future. And he's like pumping his arms and like just bursting with excitement and positivity. He's so excited about whatever conversation he just got off the phone with somebody at Warner Brothers, whether it be Peter, James. I think he mentions David Zaslav. He says David in the video also. Yep. So I don't know who he talks to, but he's really pumped about something. And I feel like this is either, you're staying as Aquaman and we've got this crazy story for you, or you're not going to be Aquaman, but you're going to be Lobo and we've got this crazy, awesome story for you. I think either way, he's hyped on staying with Warner Brothers. He's hyped on DC, and he's hyped on James Gunn and Peter Safran's plan. Like, he's all in, regardless of who he's playing. This could be either one. I don't know. Steve, do you have an inkling as to, do you think he's staying on as Aquaman, or do you think he's making the switch to Lobo? Or some third thing?
No, I have no inkling, and I don't think there's really any way to tell at this point.
I don't think there is either.
So, unfortunately, we do have someone that we know is not staying on.
Yeah, although I do want to say one more thing about Jason Momoa, because I have a prediction. I think, because this is at least the second time we know he's talked to somebody that knows something, James Gunn. Let's pretend it's James Gunn or Peter Safran. The second time he's had a conversation about his future at Warner Brothers. At least the second time that he's posted about. So either it's Aquaman or it's Lobo. And I think if he is switching to Lobo, if he's going to play Lobo, I think he's going to play Lobo in James Gunn's Superman movie that he's writing.
Okay.
Because Lobo, it has traditionally, on and off, he's been in his own series and encountered his own heroes, but a lot of times he is an antagonist for Superman because he's a bounty hunter. He's trying to catch somebody, and that puts him at odds with Superman.
Right.
And I feel like that is a character we have certainly never seen in live action. We've certainly never seen him go up against Superman in live action, and it could be a thing where they're clashing, but then at the end they have to team up and work together to fight the bigger whatever, So I feel like if he's having this many conversations, it's a movie that's already in development. It's a movie that they want to announce pretty soon. And I feel like Superman is that thing. Like, Warner Brothers is really pushing Superman. We know that James Gunn is writing it. We know that they're working on Superman and pushing Superman. And I know James Gunn a lot of times will write a script with an actor in mind. So if he's writing this, he's probably like, I'm writing a Lobo thing and you're in my brain. Do you want to do this? And, maybe that was the initial call, and maybe this call was the yep, it's definitely happening. Who knows? But I think if it's Aquaman, great. He's a cool version of Aquaman. I'll love him as Aquaman moving forward. If he's switching to Lobo, I'm predicting he's going to be in the Superman movie.
So I do have to correct you. He apparently has appeared in live action once.
In Smallville?
No, in Krypton. The sci-fi series.
Krypton, really?
Season 2, apparently, he featured.
I did not realize that. That is a show I should watch. I've heard that it got canceled after 2 seasons. I heard it was really good. I heard it was very good. And they did a whole doomsday thing, and they used practical effects for giant puppets and stuff that looked really cool. I never watched it. Maybe I should watch it. Yeah. I know I won't. There's too much else for me to watch.
Right. There's so many things.
Anyway, going back to your segue, your wonderful professional segue about people staying on and people departing. The wonderful, beloved.
Yeah,
he's beloved.
absolutely.
Don't you think? Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, and iconic voice of the Joker in many a DC animated thing, suggests in a recent interview that he is going to retire from voicing the Joker in response to the death of Kevin Conroy, iconic Batman voice actor that we talked about a few weeks ago. And quote in this interview, he said, "They would call me and say, they want you to do the Joker. And my only question was, is Kevin Batman? If they said yes, I would say, I'm in. We were like partners. We were like Laurel and Hardy. Without Kevin there doesn't seem to be a Batman for me." And that's all I said.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's only been one time where Mark Hamill has voiced the Joker without Kevin Conroy being Batman, and it was a voice cameo in a live-action Birds of Prey series that was out in like the mid to late 2000s. That's another show. If I'm going back and watching DC shows I haven't seen, that would be high on my list. It was like this short-lived one-season Birds of Prey series, and I don't think Batman was even in it. So that's probably why he agreed to do it, because no, Kevin Conroy wasn't being Batman because there wasn't a Batman in it. It was like over the phone, Harley talked to the Joker, and it was Mark Hamill as the Joker. So the I'm okay with this. What do you think, Steve? I'm okay with him.
I think it's true. I think it, like he said, it doesn't fit without to have, when you think of the Joker, that's the voice that's in my head.
Me too. Yeah.
When I'm reading a book and the Joker is in it, that's what's in my head.
Yep.
Just like Kevin Conroy is still Batman in my head.
Yep. Always. Agreed.
So, makes sense.
This article also brought up the question of the coming out sometime this year, Suicide Squad versus the Justice League has been confirmed that is Kevin Conroy's final performance as Batman. Batman is in that game. I guess for a little bit, voiced by Kevin Conroy. So it remains to be seen if there's a Joker in that game.
Right.
If Mark Hamill will be voicing Joker. However, apparently that game takes place, I didn't realize this until I read this article, it takes place in the same continuity that the Arkham Asylum games take place in. And spoiler alert for those games, Joker is dead in those games after a while. So seemingly probably not. But
yeah,
I'm fine with it. And like Mark Hamill's also getting older, so who knows how much longer he'd be able to really effectively do that voice at all.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what James Earl Jones did with Rebels with Vader, and it was still Vader, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, even in Rogue One, you can tell that James, his voice is a little bit, sounds like an 80-year-old guy instead of he should be 30 or whatever. But yeah, I'm okay. If I'm never going to hear Kevin Conroy as Batman again, then yeah, I think if he's going to retire as a Joker, this is the perfect time to do it, and it's
only right.
It's incredibly valid reason to do. Yes, it's only right, like you said. Yeah. Speaking of other things, one last DC story. Speaking of other things that may not be coming back anymore, this is a rumor that Doom Patrol, beloved by many people, the HBO Max series Doom Patrol may not be renewed for a 5th season. The 4th season, currently half of it has aired on HBO Max. The other half is airing, I think, next month sometime. I'm not really sure. And we've talked about this before, how both Doom Patrol and Titans, I don't know, specifically for Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is such a good show. It's one of my favorite comic book adaptations in live action, like hands down. Just as far as like, especially for television shows, my God. For me, Doom Patrol is up there with like Daredevil. It's like just so good.
Yeah, very different in tone than Daredevil.
Radically different. Radically
quality
different.
wise, I get you.
The fact that we've gotten 4 seasons of the most bananas, crazy time, wackadoo pants show that I've ever seen in my whole life. At 4 seasons. That's great. That's a small miracle that we got 4 seasons of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, Diane Guerrera, who plays Crazy Jane in Doom Patrol, who plays her excellently, switching back and forth between different personalities effortlessly. This actress is incredible. Apparently, she posted something on Instagram that had a picture of her, or a short edit video of her playing Crazy Jane, with the caption, "Goodbye, my beloved." But then she quickly deleted it after. But people grabbed screenshots of it, so people saw it, and people assumed that Doom Patrol is getting canceled. This is a rumor, so take this with a grain of salt. But you and I have been talking in general, like, it just seems like for Titans and Doom Patrol, it seems like they're I feel like they're I don't know. The sun has set on both of those shows.
They've got to be on the chopping block, knowing the way DC's doing things.
Especially in a world where James Gunn is saying we're telling one big story across TV and movies and games and all that stuff. I feel like James Gunn is somebody that probably likes the Doom Patrol and thinks that there's like
that's what I was kind of thinking.
So who knows if this will be a reboot, if we'll ever see these characters in these roles again. Like, it's incredibly well cast show. Like, everyone in it's really good. Who doesn't love Brendan Fraser as fucking Robot Man? Like, that's dope.
So good.
So good. So, I mean, who knows? So maybe we'll see him again, or maybe we'll see Doom. I mean, I would love a Doom Patrol movie, but like Doom Patrol is something like you look at. People say, like, of course they can make a Doom Patrol movie because they made a Guardians of the Galaxy movie and no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy was until they made that movie, right? But they didn't announce a Guardians movie until after Phase 1. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't until they proved, like, we all saw the Avengers and were like, this is dope. We love this. They can do this. And then they were like, yeah, we're going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Whoa, what? We're getting weird? Oh, yeah, we're doing all this other kind of weird stuff. So, like,
well,
I feel
and then
like
not only a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but a Guardians movie with a lineup that was just out of thin air.
Right. But we only trusted Guardians because we already bought into the franchise. So I feel like if we ever get something like a Doom Patrol movie or another series or something, it's going to be the second half of whatever this slate is. Like, we have to get
either that,
we have to be bought into like a Superman and a Wonder Woman and whatever, like a core DC team before, like, okay, well, now we're gonna start branching off into weirdness, and one of those branches is gonna be Doom Patrol.
But at the same time,
big yawn.
Yeah, big yawn. We're sneezing and yawning, and we're all over the place. No, at the same time, I mean, we needed, with the Marvel universe, to be bought in. Does James Gunn, not Games John, very different people. Does James Gunn bring with him enough panache that you trust that for him to just go wonky off the bat? Because he did that with Suicide Squad and he killed it.
That's true, but Suicide Squad wasn't it was an established franchise. Regardless of what you think about that first movie.
Right. Whether or not everything leading up to it was a complete flop or mess.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a known commodity.
But also, and I think we mentioned this last week, Suicide Squad made a ton of money. It was not a failure at the box office. Neither was Batman vs. Superman. Just the reviews were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think that worked because, and again, the James Gunn Suicide Squad didn't make a ton of money, but also it was like released during COVID still, and no one was going to the theater. And it was rated R, you know. But anyway, Suicide Squad was a term that a lot of people were familiar with because there had been one movie. A lot of people went to see it, even though it was bad. Yeah, that's the other thing. It didn't, like, his movie didn't make a ton of money, but it was a sequel to a bad movie. So I know people that haven't seen James Gunn's Suicide Squad because they hate the first one. And I'm like, yo, it's way different. It's way better. The tone is like, you got to give it a chance. It's great. But I think that was a more established franchise. Even like if you had made if Marvel did Iron Man, Captain America, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't know if people would have like flocked to that movie as much as they like, oh, this is part of this new Marvel Cinematic Universe thing that I like because I've seen a few movies and a team up movie that I already believe in. You know, how is this going to connect to it? Mm-hmm. I feel like you got to like lay some breadcrumbs before you're like, bam, Doom Patrol.
No, I can see
that. I hope they do it again. And I've said this a few times on this podcast, but 4 seasons of any show I feel like is good. 4 seasons of any show is nothing to be upset about.
Not everything has to be
that goes
The
for
Simpsons.
Titans and Doom Patrol, for sure. Doom Patrol's the better show, but
is accurate.
Yeah. All right, moving into some comics. Whoo boy, some depressing news from Comixology. Comixology, a very popular digital comic reading app, purchasing and reading app, was bought by Amazon in late 2021 and integrated with them in early 2022, I believe is the timeline.
Something around there.
Yeah. And right off the bat, when it was integrated with Amazon, there were problems. Amazon deleted a bunch of functionality and things that fans of Comixology were not happy with. They reintegrated some of that stuff. They didn't reintegrate some of that stuff. Some of the people that had bought stuff through Comixology before the buyout of Amazon lost the stuff they had purchased. Just like, it was not great. And I don't know, we were hoping that they were going to turn it around because, like I said, they did put some stuff back. They did make some fixes. This week, it was estimated that 50 to 75% of the staff at Comixology was fired.
Yeah.
By Amazon. The remaining employees, this is hearsay, I guess, but from people that used to work there, saying that the employees that were not fired this week are only being kept on temporarily to complete like specific projects and things like that. And I think eventually everybody's going to be gone and Comixology will cease to exist.
It's a weird situation.
Is that the road we're on?
I think it might be. At this point, it's a weird situation that Comixology was put in, especially when Amazon bought them back in 2013, and then
was it that long ago?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was more recent. Okay.
Well, they only started fiddling in like 2021, 2022.
Okay.
And they immediately, like, once they started...
Oh, that's what it was. Sorry, it was the integration. They got rid of Comixology.com and integrated it to Amazon.com. And that's what happened in 2021, 2022.
So they did that, and then they also, like, completely neutered the app and, like, made the reading experience horrible when people would go through Comixology rather than one of the normal, like, big apps.
DC Infinite or Marvel
Unlimited. You would go that direction because of the reading experience. And Amazon went and neutered that. They basically ran the company into the ground and now are laying people off, even though they were trying to, like, all these employees that fixed the stupid things that Amazon corporate did to their product are now getting canned because Amazon basically, they did the big corporate thing of, oh, we screwed up a little too far, and now people take notice and don't want to use our product, and now our product's worthless. Which is similar to what Wizards of the Coast seems to be doing with D&D and Magic the Gathering, but that's a discussion for a different day because we could, well, that would send me off on a rant like your DC rants sometimes.
Yeah.
I would just go.
So this is sad. Because Comixology was a big source of, I don't know, access to comics for like a lot of people, and
they were right on the cusp of all the digital, like the transition to digital. Yeah,
I know, and I know also, like, I read in this article, like, apparently Amazon, like the spending and ordering online boom that happened during COVID has like died down, and so they're not like raking in as much money as they were in the last couple years, so they're making cuts. They also are discontinuing their smile.amazon.com charity, which is, I think, bullshit. It's just, they're just getting rid of it so they don't have to give as much money to charity, I guess. Like, what the fuck, Amazon?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it seems dumb for them not to keep some version of this alive, right? Like people are giving them money.
They were the big thing for indies, like even the Booms and IDWs and that were all through there.
Right.
Now, like IDW has their own app, but a small publisher like Band of Bards over in Buffalo or whatever, where are you going to get them digitally? Are you going to be able to get them digitally outside of going to their site?
I'll say that because you mentioned Band of Bards, and if anyone is struggling with Comixology right now, there is a site called Global Comics. That also you can get a lot of indie comics there, and Band of Bards does have a big or good presence.
Okay, so there's at least some other options.
So there's another outlet, Global Comics. I do believe they spell it with an X, Comix. So go check that out if you're fed up with Comixology. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It seems like they would want to keep it going as some kind of revenue stream. Like shutting it completely down seems like
throwing money away.
Yeah, exactly.
When you already have the infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like DC shelving a done movie.
Yeah. Or a done... Wait, didn't I read something that someone's shelving a whole... Oh, TNT isn't going to air the last season of Snowpiercer, even though it's completely shot already, just to save money? What is happening?
Yeah.
Batgirl set a precedent, apparently, in Hollywood. They're like, oh, we can just not pay actors and not pay residuals if we just don't put the thing out? Great. What? It's terrible.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Anyway, other more positive comics news, as there's a new Black Panther creative team has been announced at Marvel. Writer Eve L. Ewing and artist Chris Allen are going to be helming the new Black Panther series when it launches in June 2023. Ewing mentioned she's embracing a noir tone, but also said the following. The current team is ending their run, obviously probably in like May or whatever. And she said, when I had my first conversation with Will Moss, who edits Black Panther for Marvel, I found out where the John Ridley run is going to end. John Ridley's the current writer of Black Panther. Found out where John Ridley run is going to end. I had to laugh. No spoilers, but the status quo is going to be more than a little disrupted. But I've always believed that the fun of writing these characters is not completely ignoring or undoing what your predecessor did, nor is it simply continuing with their storyline. It's taking the reins from the place where they left the story and accepting the challenge to make it your own. In this case, I can say that I'm extremely geeked about the ways we're picking up where he leaves off. So, a couple interesting nuggets there. Apparently, the status quo of Black Panther is going to drastically change at the end of John Ridley's run, and then Ewing's going to kind of pick it up and run with it, but take it maybe in a direction that fans won't be expecting, which I think is the way to go. Like she says, that's why, a lot of times you take over a series, you are stuck answering the question. Ask Ryan Johnson this about his experience taking over for J.J. Abrams in the Star Wars universe. You got all these questions, all of a sudden you have to answer them. All of a sudden it's your responsibility to come up with these answers. Fans may not like how you answer those questions, but it's your job to do it. It's not their job to do it. So I guess I'll be excited to see what happens to Black Panther at the end of the Ridley run and also at the beginning of the Ewing run. A noir tone. Noir is not necessarily a descriptor that I would think of when I think of Black Panther. So I think that's very interesting that she would be taking it in a noir detective-y kind of way. That's very interesting to me.
I'll be curious where that goes. And just to think about what, Black Panther, they've had some heavy hitters writing, not traditional comic book writers, but Ta-Nehisi Coates into Ridley, into Eve Ewing, who's she's a sociology professor at University of Chicago.
Yeah.
Well respected, regarded in multiple fronts, and also the creator of Ironheart.
That's true.
So, it's going to be a different look at T'Challa or Shuri, depending on what direction it goes whatever.
It could be a third one, depending on the end of Ridley's run, according to her.
Yeah, so we'll see where it goes, and I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of comics, this week in your local comic book shop, you got Action Comics number 1051, All Out Avengers number 5, Amazing Spider-Man number 18, Batman One Bad Day Catwoman. I was able to get myself an advanced copy of that, so I'll be reading that before Wednesday.
Ooh, fancy.
Very fancy. Blue Beetle Graduation Day number 3, Book of Shadows number 3, Catwoman number 51, Creepshow number 5, Darkwing Duck number 1. Yes, give it up for Darkwing Duck.
When there's trouble, you call DW.
Yeah. Detective Comics number 1068, Gargoyles number 2, Harley Quinn number 26, Human Target number 11, the penultimate issue of Tom King's Human Target story, Justice Society of America number 2, Lazarus Planet We Once Were Gods number 1, Lord of the Jungle number 3, Murder World Wolverine number 1. I don't know what that means. Murder World, is that like a Marvel thing that we know about?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Anyway, I thought it was worth noting. Anything called Murder World seems interesting. I don't know. We got Plush Volume 3, Sandman Universe Dead Boy Detectives number 2, Sins of Sinister number 1. Oh, Steve, Murder World?
Murder World was the whole arcade thing.
Oh, was it the arcade thing?
That's
okay, I thought of arcade.
Yeah, that's his theme park is Murder World. I got it.
Okay, so apparently
pieces are all coming back together.
With arcade. Okay. Awesome. All right. Sins of Sinister number 1. I believe that's a big that's a big X-Men thing.
The way they've been writing Mr. Sinister these last couple, like since House of X, Powers of X, for all the qualms of what's happened with the X-Men and how writing has gone since Hickman's gone, whatever, Sinister is still just he's great.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I feel like I've been hearing about Sins of Sinister for a long time, and now it's finally happening. So we'll see how that goes. Get a load of the title of this next comic. I know nothing about it. When you think it's over, it just keeps going. Ready?
Okay.
Snow White, Zombie Apocalypse, Reign of the Blood-Covered King, number 0.
Okay.
What? Snow White, Zombie Apocalypse, Reign of the Blood-Covered King, number 0. That comes out this week. Your local comic book shop. Check it out. Star Wars, Dr. Aphra, number 28. Star Wars, Yoda, number 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, The Lost Years, number 1. I believe it's a prequel to the well-known, well-received Last Ronin book. Thor, number 30. Tim Drake, Robin, number 5. Traveling to Mars, number 3. Vampirella Strikes, number 9. And Zombicide, Day 1, number 1. Whoa! Whole crazy shit with my microphone just happened.
Happens the best.
I knocked my pop screen down. Sorry about that, listeners at home. If that's too deafening. Apologies. So, Steve, lots of cool stuff coming out this week. I bought some cool stuff last week, and I read it already.
Ooh.
Aren't I great?
What do you
got? Batman One Bad Day Bane.
Okay.
I bought and read. I bought and read... Ooh, no, I got Nightwing 100. I haven't read Nightwing 100 yet. Sorry. I haven't read everything. Batman 131. That Chip Zdarsky run on Batman, I gotta say, is great, but very unexpected.
Oh, yeah. No, it's pants on head, like nothing you would anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read his Daredevil run, but like what I've heard about it, it seems just like very much the character of Daredevil. I don't know. Like, I expected it to be like a very street level... gritty kind of Batman, and it's like, nope, we're doing the Zur-En Ra thing, and we're doing other... He's in like another universe.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I feel like he's putting building blocks in place to tell a story that he wants to tell. Like sometimes when you read when a new writer takes over, it seems like their first arc is just a way to get them to the story that they really wanted to tell.
Yeah, like they had this idea, and then they're like, all right, how do I get from where we are, I'm kicking my mic too, to there?
It's like what Eve Ewing was just saying about Black Panther. Like, okay, well, I have to deal with what Ridley is doing, but I want to get to tell my story, so I have to like figure out a way to get there. I feel like that's what Chip Zdarsky is doing, and he wanted to get Batman to this place where he can tell this weird story. And he's there, and he's doing it, and it's very good, but it's just not what I expected at all.
Right.
I also read... What did I get and I read? Oh, I finished another volume of John Ostrander's Suicide Squad, which is great. And there was something else that I read that I don't remember, so I'm just going to throw it to you. You said you actually read some books this week, too.
I did.
What'd you read, Steve?
Similarly, I didn't have anything on my pull, but I was wandering around, was able to find a missing piece of my High Republic run that I needed.
Nice.
Did pick up Star Wars Revelations. I have not read that. Dune House Harkonnen, we talked, or I think you had on the list last week. Picked that up just to see.
Sorry, what I read was the next issue of Flash continuing the 1 Minute War.
Oh yeah, yep.
Arc, which I really like so far. It's only been 2 issues so far, but I think it's really good. They're doing a really good job. Anyway, go ahead.
Now, if I'm going to flash something up on the screen, if you saw this cover, tell me what you would immediately think of.
Okay. It kind of looks like Something is Killing the Children a little bit.
Yes. So this is a Something is Killing the Children variant cover, quote unquote parody cover of Children of the Black Sun, which is a Blaze book.
Oh.
Really, really intriguing. Like I picked it up strictly because of the cover.
Yeah.
Like they grabbed me with that. The art is very erratic, should I say?
Okay.
It's an intriguing concept. So supposedly, or what the whole premise is twice before the sun has risen, not as a sun but as a black sphere.
Whoa.
And
terrifying.
It happened like 4 years apart, and the children born, or it's either born or conceived on those days, are known as the children of the Black Sun, and they have like different morphological characteristics. They're like ashen skin and red eyes, and it's kind of setting up like something weird is going on there. So yeah, I'd give it it's solid hooks.
Wow.
So next time I see you, I'll toss you the book just to see how it goes.
Yeah, dude.
But I might.
That sounds great.
It was good enough that I'm probably going to talk to Jesse and throw it on the poll.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah. And then I have to, just because I know you will appreciate it, show you this gloriousness.
Whoa, he's holding up, for you listening, he's holding up a graded 9.4 book. Whoa, signed by Wedge?
Signed by Dennis Lawson.
Wow, okay. So wait, this is Star Wars X-Wing.
Yep, Rogue Squadron #1, which was the first series that kind of continued Wedge. And for anyone who's been listening for a while, Wedge, like you know Wedge has been, or Wedge is
Wedge
like...
Antilles.
Wedge Antilles is my favorite Star Wars character of all time.
Yeah.
So
I guess I didn't know that. You're of all time?
Yeah, I would say. And mostly
Wedge.
because of the X-Wing books.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Yeah,
get a ton of them in the movies.
Hey, he's the only man to survive 2 Death Stars, so... Luke did not assault the second Death Star.
He was on it, though.
I feel like that's
he's the
semantics.
only. I feel like you got to tweak that sentence a little bit. He's the only man to survive
assaulting 2 Death Stars.
Assault on 2 Death Stars. Yeah, an assault on 2 Death Stars. Yes.
Because Biggs definitely didn't.
No, poor guy.
Too soon? Okay.
Always too soon.
Him and Porkins, man. But
Jed Porkins.
But yeah, that was.
Where did you get that at Funky Town?
Yeah. So they got a crazy Star Wars collection in, and I had seen that on the shelf a couple times. I'm like, oh, graded book, like cool, like I would love to have that, but I'm not going to. And then I saw it was signed, and I was like, I don't know if I can pass this up.
I need that. Yeah. Wow.
So it's not often that I just impulse buy a like pure collectible.
Yeah.
But that was like that needs to happen.
Wow. I don't have any graded books like that. I don't know. Sometimes I think about sending mine to get graded, but I feel like it's really expensive and I don't really know how to do it, and it's just like a mystery.
Yeah.
So I never do.
We can talk offline about that, because I think I've had some talks with Jeff about that. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I should figure that out. Yeah, I mean, shout out to Funky Town Comics. If you're listening and you're somebody that likes Star Wars or Star Wars collectibles of many different kinds, they got a huge collection of Star Wars stuff in, like, I would say 80 to 90% of the toys that they have currently on shelves in Funky Town Comics and vinyl right now are Star Wars action figures and Star Wars models, Star Wars statues.
Like any Black Series figure you could possibly want.
Yes, just so much. So if you are a Star Wars collector, get yourself to Funky Town Comics and Toys. Even if if you just want, I want a cool Yoda action figure. They got them. They probably have 12 of them.
They also have a life-size Yoda sitting on the counter.
Yes, that's true.
Like
which
I believe
is not for sale.
No, but it's a 2-scale Yoda sitting on the counter. I was like, okay, this is pretty great.
Very awesome.
Yep. They also have, I did notice over on the wall, they have, what is it? Misfits, some Grateful Dead Bertha action figures.
Yeah.
I was like, they made those? Okay.
Yeah. Tons of weird
There's
stuff.
some weird stuff, and it's great.
Yep. As always, shout out to Funky Town Comics and Vinyl for just being great. We got one shot for you tonight, and then we're going to probably wrap up by sharing our thoughts on, my thoughts, I guess, on The Last of Us, because I just watched that. Steve's talked about it last week. And The Bad Batch, which is the Star Wars show that's currently on Ryan. We haven't really talked about too much, but our one shot for this week is that Steven Spielberg himself.
I've heard of him.
A little known director. Steven Spielberg is currently producing a documentary on the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, John Williams, composer extraordinaire. It's in the very early stages right now. Not much info on it. Just going to be covering the life and career of the 90-plus something year old composer, John Williams.
Yeah.
And reading this article, I didn't realize this. Williams, a few years ago, stated that he was retiring from writing scores after Indiana Jones 5. Yep. Now we know that it's called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But apparently recently reversed that decision at a public dinner that was being thrown in honor of him and his collaboration with Steven Spielberg. And he made a speech and he announced that he wasn't necessarily retiring and he wanted to keep working specifically with Steven Spielberg. So I guess it's not going to be his last score. I mean, knock on wood, it's not going to be his last score, I guess.
Yeah, he is officially 90.
Yeah. Wild. And it makes very much sense that Steven Spielberg would be producing this documentary. There's no director attached right now. And I don't know if Spielberg's ever done a documentary, but it would make sense if he wants to direct it also, because I didn't realize, I knew this number was probably high, but I didn't realize how high it was. John Williams has scored all but 5 Steven Spielberg movies.
Really?
I don't know what 5, but this article said he's scored all but 5 of Steven Spielberg's movies.
Huh.
So that's, I mean, if you think about it, what, like Jaws, Williams, E.T., Williams, Jurassic Park, Williams, like all these, like all Indiana Jones movies, John Williams, like all these big things that you can think of that Steven Spielberg, like Schindler's List, even, like he's done, it's all John Williams stuff.
So there were only apparently 2 feature length only 2 feature-length films where John Williams has not scored the music for Spielberg. 1985 is The Color Purple.
Okay.
American Beauty, Bridge of Spies.
Okay.
So those are the only 2 feature-length.
Wow.
So.
Wild. So
Ready
Player
Player
cool.
One was also one.
What did you just say?
Ready Player One was also not scored by him.
Good call, Williams. That movie was a miss, I believe.
Yeah, I would say so. The book was good, but
yeah, I've heard mixed about, well, both things really. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm down to watch a John Williams documentary for sure whenever that comes out, so stay tuned for that. And Steve, I don't know how long. Have we been going a long time? Do we have to like fill time, or are we like kind of right on track?
We've been going an hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
Yeah, man. So much for calling it a light week, buddy.
I guess we did really take a lot of time up top. So I guess I'll just say I watched The Last of Us and I loved it. I thought it was great. It filled me with dread in the way that the game did. And it made me kind of remember like how great the game was and make me think like, oh, this is pretty easy adaptation because the game was such a good story. All you have to do is like just do what the game did.
Right.
And you're telling a great story.
There were a couple of shots that were like directly out of the game that I had the Leo DiCaprio meme of like, I saw that. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a couple things where they referenced the video game in a way that's very natural. They didn't do anything that's like out of character for like a series or a show to be doing.
Yeah.
But like I was just telling my friend earlier today, like there's a scene at the end where Joel knocks a guy out and then takes his gun and walks away. It's just like, oh yeah, that's how it works in video games. You kill a guy, you take their gun, you get a better gun, and you walk away with it. Like that's what, and like it makes sense in that scene also, but also it's like, oh yeah, that's a video game thing. You kill a guy, you take their gun. Point.
100%.
Like that's like it's like great way to like, yep, this is a video game thing, but it also makes perfect sense for the story that you're telling. And I love it. I haven't watched tonight's episode obviously because I'm doing this, but
right. So
and then we also said we're gonna.
So last week I had said, right off the bat, like this hits the same notes, and I by the sound of it, you would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, it felt as good watching it as it did playing it.
I agree.
And Joel,
it made me remember. I like viscerally remembered. Playing the game, and I haven't played the game in years, but like I was like, yep, I remember everything that's going to happen right now.
And even through one episode, it does seem. I mean, they aged up Ellie a little with Bella Ramsey, but I through one just from initial impressions, it was like Pedro Pascal feels like Joel.
Yes,
and
100%.
I wanted to say Robbie Reyes, Diego Luna, Gabriel Luna, wrong Luna. Gabriel Luna like feels just like how Tommy would. Like they really hit the casting, like Bella Ramsey as well with Ellie. They'll probably, it's going to have to be modified slightly, but it feels right.
Yeah.
And apparently so Bella Ramsey asked if she should play the game when she was cast.
Oh,
and the producers explicitly told her no.
Really?
Yeah. So that she would be like, she would get her line reads and be like,
be her own character.
Right. And when you play through the game, like there's things that she's reacting to that are, you need that visceral reaction. You don't need to like, it's probably better for her that she doesn't know what's going to happen.
Or know the future of her character necessarily. Right. Yeah. And that's interesting too, where I'm wondering where season 1 is going to end. Like, I can't imagine they're going to do the whole first game.
Right. That'd be a lot.
It seems like they would be just shooting themselves in the foot for further seasons. Like if they are able to keep this quality, I feel like you'd want to like not pad it out, but at least make the first 2 seasons the first game or something, at least. There's a lot of other places they could stop along the way, I'm sure. But I know we promised a Bad Batch conversation, but if we're already at an hour and a half, I feel like maybe we should like just jump and we can talk about Bad Batch next week.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely do that. I mean, this week's Bad Batch was, I don't want to say filler, but it was somewhat filler.
Yeah, it was great. I liked it still. It was entertaining.
Yeah, last week was the one that, well, the first 2, the arc in the first 2, and then last week's were like, we should probably touch on them pretty well. Yeah. When we get into a conversation. So
yeah, episode 3 was great. Yeah. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe we do like, or when the finale comes, maybe we'll do like a season retrospective. Yeah.
Or I mean, if there's another episode that comes out like episode 3 that actually was just like that was the way
conversation.
Right. That was episode 3 was kind of felt the way that like Star Wars animation at its best felt.
100%. I agree with you. Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with the main Bad Batch crew.
Yeah, if you're not watching Bad Batch, I get it. I didn't love season 1, but season 2 is great, and the 3rd episode of season 2 is one of the best animated Star Wars things I've ever seen, hands down.
Oh, so we'll Last of Us stuff. The Sarah, the way they portrayed the Sarah stuff.
Oh, in Last of Us?
Yeah. absolutely impeccable.
Crushing.
Like
just devastating. I was like, just get through it.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be awful, but like once we're on the other side of it, it's just going to be like normal post-apocalyptic zombie thing. I know. Just like get to that, and then it'll be like, it'll feel normal. Like you can deal with that.
Yeah.
You've seen that a million times. Just get through the thing that you know is going to be awful.
It sets awful. The tone for Joel's character so perfectly.
Yep. And it's how the game starts. Like you have to play through that in the game.
Oh yeah.
And they do the great thing of, the game did this too, really, but they do it great in the show. Where if you have not played the game, and again, spoiler, I guess, if you haven't played the game, give people a second to turn it off or skip ahead, I guess, if they don't want the spoiler. But in the show, if you haven't played the game, you're watching the show, you think Sarah's the main character.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She is not.
Very Eddard Starkish of them.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to watch. I'll probably watch the second one tomorrow night. So I'm pumped. So
same. My
well,
wife,
cool.
My
I
wife
guess
will be a band, so actually probably the same reason you're going to be watching it. So.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So.
All right.
That's all we got, and it's much more than we thought we had for you. I hope that you didn't mind us rambling for too long. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I'd agree. Same here. I would say if you're hanging out and still listening to us, please feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review. Really helps us out. If you want to get a hold of us, the Multiverse Report at gmail.com, the multiverseport.com, the Multiverse Report on the socials. Feel free to hit us up. We'll always be willing to talk back at you, and yeah.
Heck yeah.
Good here.
Cool. Well, that's all I got. So until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse. Sorry, I didn't realize you were done. I was checking.